want to move along from the government, although we'll get back to them very shortly, because it is important to talk about Israel and the second phase of its ground entry into Gaza. Of special concern, Turkey's very public engagement today. President Recep Erdogan accused Israel of behaving like a war criminal. He told thousands of demonstrators at a pro-Palestinian rally in Istanbul that Israel is an occupier, that Israel has openly committed war crimes for 22 days, and that Hamas is not a terrorist organisation. In response, Israel recalled its diplomats from Turkey. OK, so we just have to talk about this region, don't we? The issue here, and I'll start with you, Caroline, is that the great danger here is it spreads. And this is always the issue. Control Hezbollah, try and make certain that Iran doesn't jump out. The Saudis have got to be on board because, when I spoke with Joe Hockey only a week or so ago, the former Washington ambassador, he was really pessimistic that this could be contained. What's your own sense now?
Well, Israel doesn't have much choice except to go in and try and defeat Hamas, or at least just kneecap them as best they can, because if not, according to politics in the Middle East, they will be seen as weak, and they will all the countries, the Arab countries, will come as they have tried in the past and try to destroy Israel, which is the aim of Hamas and the aim of Iran and so many other radical Islamic regimes in the region. They do not have a choice. They also have to rescue their people and make sure that they do retaliate against those targets. So I think it's a catch-22 situation, because if they don't respond, they're seen as weak, they're seen as soft, they're seen as an easy target, as are Israel's allies, including Australia and America. But if they do respond, of course, more Hezbollah forces come in, more from other parts of the region. It's a very difficult situation. I just don't see that they...
OK, but isn't the really fundamental danger here with Erdogan talking about this, that you've got a NATO member, since 1953, a NATO member. So it's a part of the NATO alliance. That's where it becomes incredibly difficult and incredibly sensitive from a political point of view.
I mean, he is a dictator with a history of human rights abuses himself. Why are we taking any moral lessons from this person?
Because he is a member of NATO.
I think Ross, you're right about that, and I think that is why it will only be words and not action. Turkey cannot possibly afford to intervene militarily in this dispute, and it knows it, which is why he's talking a big game. Yeah. And already we've had the US, I think they've been bombing Iranian-backed installations in Syria. So already it's kind of spreading. Iran knows that it probably can't come in sort of officially or full throttle because, of course, again, no one's going to go to war with America, which sort of brings us back full circle. America is still the #1 democracy on the block. China hasn't quite knocked it off just yet. And so...
and is it a democracy?
And it is actually a democracy. Yeah. And so this is why we need to be allies with the US. This is why we need to make sure the US has our back. Because without that, all those cards that we were talking about 100%. Fall very, very, very quickly. And again, talking about like unseemly and unfortunate bedfellows, but one of the big reasons for this action was that Israel was about to do a deal with Saudi Arabia, having already done a deal with United Arab Emirates.
And that's how all this started.
That's right. And the Saudis are obviously a pretty despotic and regime with a pretty lousy human rights record as well. But sometimes you need to have these really uncomfortable alliances with people you might not much like to defeat or hold at bay a greater evil. So again, it's all part of almost all part of the same concept.
So I want to bring Sophie in here because Sophie, your whole beat is media, and it goes the whole notion of image. And the images coming out are really important here. There's images, say, in Melbourne over the weekend of flags in Federation Square. There's, in Tony Burke's Electric, there are flags, Palestinian flags flying there. There's obviously one side trying to put out images that are sympathetic to their cause. On the other side, the Palestinians are trying to win hearts and minds. And this is the to and fro of the imagery of the war to try and capture, if you like, people's hearts and minds.
And Ross, this is where the issue has been with the media. I mean, the ABC has come under a lot of criticism for the way it's been reporting on what's going on in Israel. Patricia Karvelis, when she was interviewing Tony Burke, as we discussed earlier on Friday, came under fire. Saying, is this act of genocide and what's going on in Israel? She was condemned by people from the Israeli community. They were just mortified. I think people just need to look across all the media landscape, because you are finding in the media, different media are pushing different agendas. And I think that's quite dangerous when we have such a serious situation on hand.